Welcome to The Garden Gate, a podcast where we talk to professionals across many fields who work directly and indirectly with plants and our natural world.
We are students at American University in Washington, D.C., and interns at Smithsonian Gardens. We have created this project with the hopes of inspiring a new generation to make sustainable and meaningful change in our world.
I'm Kira Burba.
And I am Caroline MacDonald. And this week we're talking to Ryan Gooch about his work in the field of education. Ryan Gooch is a former Smithsonian Gardens intern who is now working at an outdoor preschool in Washington State.
It's so good to have you today. We're really excited to talk to you.
Really excited to be here. I'm Ryan Gooch. I'm from Simi Valley, California, which is the Los Angeles area. I'm 26. I got my degree from UC Davis in international agricultural development. A little different than stuff I'm doing now, but learned a lot of really cool stuff there and got my start at the UC Davis Arboretum. That's what brought me here today.
We've known you for a while. You obviously were our predecessor at Smithsonian Gardens, which is awesome, but we haven't talked to you in a while. So do you want to tell us what you're doing now and how you got there?
So I think like everyone, I'm kind of going through a transition phase as well. Right now, I am serving with AmeriCorps. I am a preschool teacher, so teaching outdoor preschool in Seattle. That's where I live right now. I love it. I love being able to talk about plants. I love being outdoors, and working with kids has always been like one of my major passions. So that's really fun and awesome for me. And then I plan on attending graduate school next year at the University of Washington in education. That's kind of where my trajectory has taken me now. Yeah, it's a cool place to be.
How did you decide on choosing an AmeriCorps program, and what program are you in?
Yeah, so I'm in AmeriCorps state and national program, which basically means that AmeriCorps is partnered up with a local nonprofit. I'm in Washington Reading Corps, which usually pairs with schools in the Washington area, trying to boost literacy rates among elementary aged and preschool aged students. And I chose this because I'm trying to minimize the amount of time that I'm behind a computer, because it seems like that's what everyone's doing right now. And I just really like being outdoors, and it's been a while since I had a chance to really work with kids again. And I think that might be, like I said, one of the trajectories that I'm looking to in the future. AmeriCorps is special to me because I get a chance to put my foot in the door in environmental education, and it also allows me to feel like I'm doing something good with my life. I get to just go out and teach kids in the mountains. That's pretty cool. And it's not going to be forever, but it's a really nice thing to put on my resume. And since I'm not totally sure exactly where the future is going to take me, it's just a nice stepping stone. So that's kind of why I chose to do AmeriCorps this year.
Being in school during COVID is it's so much screen time. So I envy you that you can be outside and working with kids and what you want to be doing in this time.
I don't know how you do it.
Yeah, and I'm doing my student teaching right now. And so obviously hearing you talk about how excited you are to get into education and work with kids makes me excited, because I want to bring nature and environment to these students and help them learn about it. And it's amazing that you get to do that with them and outside. So your next step, going and getting your master's degree, is that correct?
Yeah, that's right.
How did you decide that getting a master's degree was right for you? How did you come upon that decision?
For me, even undergrad, I was iffy on doing, and master's, I was even more iffy on doing. But this program that I'm going to do it's different. It's kind of unique, the structure of it. The University of Washington has paired with an organization on Bainbridge Island in the Puget Sound of Seattle called Islandwood is the program. And basically what I will be doing is taking groups of students throughout the area, like third graders around that age, and teaching them science-based education every week. So that really drew me in, the fact that, like I said, I'm really somebody who needs to be out and doing things. And if I know I'm going to be stuck behind a computer, then that's not a program that's going to be for me. But I really have to be doing something. So when I saw that program, and I knew that a master's of education would also allow me to, it would expand the opportunities that I could apply for in the future, maybe something administrative, maybe something that's more a leadership position. The fact that it would allow me those opportunities, I thought was a big reason why I wanted to go to grad school.
I'm looking to apply to grad school myself, so I'm just curious, did you apply to the University of Washington specifically for that program because you liked what they had to offer, or were you looking to get a master's just in general and that was one of the few that you looked at?
Definitely the first one. A master's degree for me, I was really trying to balance out the pros and the cons. It's extra debt that no one needs, but you just need to make sure that you're doing it for the right reasons, that it's going to propel you to the future and your goals. So that's kind of what I did. I weighed out the pros and cons, and I decided that this program specifically would put me where I want to be in the future. It would give me those connections. A master's in education is nice because it's a pretty broad degree to have. MED is what it's called. And it would allow me to pretty much work in any kind of educational institution. But with my previous skill set and experience, I did feel like I could probably have done something that would make me happy without a master's. But again, I just kind of weighed it out and decided, well, this master's specifically and this program and the connections I can make within the area, which I think is a great area for environmental education, just seemed like the best course of action for me.
Yeah, I really can't think of a better place to be teaching outdoors than the Pacific Northwest. That really sounds awesome.
At what point did you know this is what I want to do now? This is what I want to pursue. This is the path that I want to take.
That's a hard one. For me, the first job I got out of high school was a summer camp counselor. I liked working with kids, and I had been a summer camp all my life, and I really liked it. I stuck with that job and then after school care for like 4 years, all throughout my community college years. And then even when I started going to UC Davis, I kept coming back and working there over the summer. And I just really liked it, but I never really pictured myself in an education field working with kids. So I decided to use my time at UC Davis to really explore my options. International ag development sounded really appealing to me. And I still think that in another life, if I had chosen that, I would have been super happy. But working with kids has always been something I've been really passionate about. And I kind of shied away from it. There's not a lot of money in working with kids, and it can be a very stressful job, and it's tricky to go for the first thing that you do out of high school. You're like, I did this, well, I should make a career out of it. No, I should probably check out some other things. And then I was like, no, I should just make a career out of it. So it was a little bit of back and forth and trying different things. I'm getting a better idea of what I want to do and a better idea of myself, and I think that's really important at this age when no one knows what they're doing. Is uh, everyone thinks that, oh, I should like think about exactly the job that I want to have, but really you should be learning about yourself. You should be learning about your strengths, what you like, and then let that job kind of find you. And that's kind of where I've been.
I love that message so much. And especially the message of like following your passion, because it sounds like for you, your passion is what makes you happy. And that's something that you want to obviously want to do every day. You want to wake up and be excited. What advice would you have for someone who knows they like to work with kids, wants to go into education, is really passionate about providing equitable education to students, but is also really passionate about the environment, something plant related? What advice do you have for them to mesh those two passions together, no matter where they are?
I would say that explore the field of environmental education. It is so important to get children opportunities to learn from nature. It's kind of cheesy, but when you're in the world of environmental education, you always hear the term like nature is the best classroom. And of course, it is the best classroom. You just look around and opportunities for learning are all around you. You don't have to just say, well, I like science and I want to be a teacher, so I'll be a science teacher. There's so much more to that. There's like informal education is such a broad world and a broad category that you really just have to find the opportunities. And for me, when I was in SoCal, I felt like I didn't see a lot of those around me. And then when I went to college, I was like, okay, maybe there's more to it than I thought. And now in the PNW, it's incredible. It's everywhere. Every kid has that experience of going to some sort of outdoor school. It doesn't have to be a program like that. It can also be like working for a museum, or it can be working for an aquarium. There's so many opportunities to educate children outside of the classroom that I really wish people would consider, because they are just as important as in classroom opportunities. And it's not an easy decision to choose the more broad, vague, gray world than it is to be like, okay, I can get my teaching cert and move straight into a classroom. But I would really recommend someone like that to look into that world of environmental education.
Thank you. That's so valuable. And I think it's so important that people realize that education is everyday life, and you can get an education, you can learn not only just in the classroom, but like also outside as well and in non-traditional environments. And for some students, that's what's best. That's what gets them excited.
Building upon what you said earlier about trying new things, and you're never going to know what you like until you do it. It's like how I feel about Smithsonian Gardens. Like, I never wanted to work with kids or do anything with education, but now that I've worked here, I really like educating people, educating visitors, and I think that that's where I kind of want to go into now. And I never thought that that would be somewhere that would lead me to this path, but like, without getting these kind of odd internships, odd jobs, you're never going to know without trying it.
Totally.
And I feel like that's just so true for our age too. Like, I, for a long time, have known I want to be a teacher. I want to be in the classroom. I want to be with kids. Like, that's my dream job. But then I come to Smithsonian, I'm like, wait a second. Like, we don't have to be in a classroom sitting in rows at desks. Like, we can be up and moving and playing and like learning from the environment we live in. And I think that's just so thrilling to be able to share like something you're passionate about with another student. Because thinking back to teachers I've had, the best ones I've had are always the ones who are the most passionate about what they're doing and about the topics that they're teaching.
So true. One of my first internships that really set me on this course was working for a student garden in an elementary school near Los Angeles, where kids had no idea about like the seasons or where their food came from or soil and how those things work, because it's so urban and of an environment. And depending on where you're from, you forget like what opportunities some kids may or may not have. So being able to bring that to them, the outdoors to them, or whatever kind of program you can find that can enhance their knowledge of the outside world is so valuable, so important. And I really encourage everyone to look into opportunities to do that. It's really going to change the world if we can get these kids out and about.
The best days at school were the days that we would go out in the woods behind my middle school and look for like salamanders and stuff. I feel like there's just such a limit to what you can be learning about nature in the classroom. And I felt so privileged that we were able to go into the woods, but it's so hard for kids that are learning in the cities to have that kind of same experience. So I think improving environmental education is such a big deal.
Even on this online environment, this morning during our morning meeting with my 5th grade students, we got into this conversation about, one student said, "Hey, have you ever heard of a turtle bug?" And I was like, "No, what are you talking about? I don't know what a turtle bug is." And he's like, "Well, it's a bug with a shell." And I was like, "What? What do you mean?" So I look up turtle bug and find out that maybe he was talking about a stink bug, where it kind of has like a shell on the back, kind of like armor. And then we got into this whole conversation about roly-polies and is it a roly-poly or is it a pill bug? And then we got talking about cicadas and the cicadas that are about to emerge from the ground in DC. They've been buried for 17 years and now they're about to come out. And these are students who come from an urban environment, and we're in a pandemic. Most of them spend their time inside. Even during our break, they want to spend their time online with their friends. And the most excited I saw them all week was talking about insects.
That's so cool. Yeah, those little moments, you got to treasure them.
Just looking back on your journey of how you've gotten to where you are so far, and what are like the best resources that you say would have helped you along the way?
Obviously, my first answer is going to be Learning by Leading is the greatest program ever to come out of anywhere in the world, in the universe. I really could not speak more highly of Learning by Leading. But I do recognize not everyone gets a chance to be a part of a Learning by Leading style internship. But what I would say is look for opportunities that give you that responsibility, like Learning by Leading does, that puts you in a role where you can make choices for yourself, because you can only learn from failure and from trying things that make you uncomfortable. And I've had both. I've had Learning by Leading where, literally I was learning because I was a leader and I was able to help people on their journey to become a leader. Whenever you can get an opportunity to be a leader and find someone who trusts you enough to make your own choices, I would say definitely look for an internship like that. And then in that internship, finding those supervisors or mentors who really believe in you and having them kind of coach you through things. And don't be afraid to ask them and get their personal emails, whatever you need to do to just connect. I had a lot of people at the UC Davis Arboretum that really inspired me and taught me how to be a good leader. And even on my like really low days where I just wasn't feeling it, they were really, pushing me forward to be the best Learning by Leading intern I could be. And I would suggest everyone to get out of your comfort zone, get out of that, box that you feel safe in, and find those people that you can relate to. And if you can't find them, just keep looking. You have to make those connections, and then once you have them, like allow that journey of growth to really flourish and take off, I would say.
In a nutshell, how would you describe learning by leading?
So Learning by Leading it's a style of doing an internship where you have two student co-coordinators who have been chosen based on their experience and their knowledge, but also their potential for leadership, their willingness to go out of that box of comfort and have those tough conversations, but also be there for those great moments. And then those two students will really be like the leaders of this internship, and they will be the ones choosing and hiring the interns below them and setting schedules and planning meetings and helping them along their journey of leadership, because the two co-coordinators are also really there to facilitate the growth from the interns, and the interns are a lot of the times the ones to come up with those great ideas and have their voices heard and contribute whatever they can to the process. So it's really kind of like a top-down style of internship and of power, whereas most other internships are reverse. And I think that is really important, and that's what makes Learning by Leading so successful.
Thank you. That was a great way to describe it.
Yeah, you're able to describe it so much more concisely than me and Kara ever have been able to.
Going back to your point about encouraging people to take opportunities, kind of take that risk, that's such a great piece of advice, because I wouldn't be here unless I had done that. The way I learned about this program and how I found out about it was I picked up someone else's shift. Someone else was supposed to give a tour at American University, and I picked up that shift, and it was a Arboretum and Sustainability Office combo tour, and we were giving a tour to high school students. And I last minute picked it up because someone couldn't go, and there was Stephanie there. And Stephanie was like, "Hey, I heard you're an education major and you like plants and the outdoors." I was like, "Yeah." And she was like, "Well, like there's this thing at Smithsonian Gardens." And I was like, "No way." And like, that's how I met you. And that's how I met, the folks at Smithsonian Gardens. And here I am. But that wasn't like a very clear linear path. I wasn't like, okay, this is how I'm going to get there. Like it just happened. And so I think like it happened because I was putting myself into my position I was already in. I was taking leadership by stepping up and taking on this someone else's shift, and then this magic happened. So I think our paths can be really intentional, but then they can get really exciting when you kind of take that jump.
I met Cindy because she was giving us a tour for some random communications class that I was taking. And I just asked if she had any internships, and she's like, "Here's this one that we're just starting and you can apply." And I'm like, okay, it's working with Smithsonian sounds super cool. And I never knew that it would be something like this, which is so amazing.
And we got really lucky also being in a DC, going to the school we do, to be able to like get those opportunities for sure.
And I feel like the more you just share your plans with people, like the more different professors, different people that you work with are going to be like, oh, hey, I know this person that can help you out with that. Or maybe there's this opportunity for you. And you just have to keep making connections with people. I feel like it's just so important.
That is true. Being open to every opportunity that comes at you, even if you weren't expecting it, is so important. It's one of the best pieces of advice I have for people is really like say yes until you can't anymore. If I hadn't said yes to so many random people being like, oh, can you help me out with this? My life would be so different.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I wanted to ask, what's the one best thing you did to get to where you are today? Would you say that taking those opportunities is the best thing you did to get to where you are today, or something else?
There is like the major one that jumps out at me was we got an email saying that the American Public Gardens Association is doing a scholarship for someone who can attend their conference this year. Like they have a yearly conference and it's pretty long, and I wasn't sure I was going to get it. But I was like one of the only people in my cohort of interns to actually apply, and I like was floored that I actually got it. And I didn't think I would, but I just decided, why not? Might as well try. And when I got there, I realized that every other person who had won that was at least a graduate student, if not like a doctoral student or some, in a crazy field. But just because I tried and they really felt like that year they wanted to include some undergraduate representation, they chose me. And I was able to go and meet so many people and go to these amazing presentations and learn about the world of public gardens. And who am I introduced to but good old, Cindy Brown. And I remember like just really connecting with her, and, she had a lot of nuggets of wisdom, which she always does. And at the end of our trip, she was like, if you ever want to have an internship, just let me know and just come over and we'll talk about it. And I was like, oh, okay. And then here I am months later being like, actually, I maybe want to follow up on that. And there I am, Smithsonian Gardens, helping set up Learning by Leading. There's so many dominoes that need to fall in place, right? For an event like that to happen, to bring me from Northern California to Washington, D.C., there's so many things that need to fall in place. So many times I had to say yes and be okay with being uncomfortable and meeting people and being surrounded by these amazing people that I was nervous to talk to, but I talked to them anyway. And only because I decided to say yes to all those opportunities and put myself in so many uncomfortable positions did I make that connection with somebody who really understood me and believed in me. You have to allow it to happen. I don't know, maybe it was fate.
Yeah, I love the allow it to happen. Sometimes you just have to let change happen.
Yeah.
From knowing you and talking with you, you're someone who is very passionate about what you do. How did you find your passion? Was it always there?
That one is tricky because I don't think I can narrow it down to a single event, but I will say that I've always been passionate about the outdoors and the environment and working with people. And on my journey, I kind of learned about myself and learned I'm kind of a people person. I really like talking to people. I really like teaching people. And I mean, I happen to work well with kids. Um, and I love the environment. I love plants and animals and, learning about the water cycle. And what can I do to combine those, you know, to find the perfect role for me. That's that's how I came to be where I am, is I looked at all of my passions and everything. I'm just passionate about a lot of things. I always was down on myself because I'm like, I can't decide what I want to do. I want to do that. I want to do that. If you wait too long, maybe I'll lose those opportunities, or maybe I'll waste some of my college years if I can't really stick to one thing. Um, but that was not the way to look at it. Having all my passions and finding a way to combine them, and realizing that a lot lot of them bleed into each other way more than you'd think they would. Once I was in that mindset, I was in a way better place, realizing that I can have my cake and eat it too. I just need to be creative, and I need to know the right people and find the right opportunities. And like I said, let fate kind of decide for you. And if you can stay open and stay positive and learn your strengths and feed your passions, then you'll find yourself in a good place.
Wow. I wish I would have heard that when I was 16. That's just something I can really relate to, is just being interested in so many things. And it's like, graduation's coming around for high school. What school do I go to? How do I pick the right school? Because I'm supposed to be interested in something. I'm supposed to know exactly what I'm supposed to do. So I'm supposed to go to the best college for that. Well, I don't know what that is. And people were like, it's okay. Like, it's all going to fall in place. You'll find it. And I was like, well, I want to do all this stuff equally. I don't want to just pick one and forget about the rest. And so I think it's just such an important message for people to hear, is like, you don't have to pick one thing. You can combine things. You can change things. You can make it fit. And so hearing you say that is awesome. Something I wish younger Kira could have heard.
100%. I just feel like it's so relatable, and I feel like so many people are in the same boat. I know myself, like, I picked American because I didn't know what I wanted to do. And the same as you guys, like, I was so passionate about so many different things. And it wasn't even until recently, in my senior year, that I found one thing that I actually want to do that encompasses multiple of my passions.
Yeah. I also think that, like, now Caroline and I are seniors, graduating from our undergrad, and I wish I could say, like, yeah, college, like, solidified that even more, but it actually, like, opened up the world even more to me. And I'm like, wait, there's even more I can do. And now it's exciting. And now it's not as scary. And it's like, wait, actually having all these passions and multiple skill sets and tools, that's going to help me. And that's not a bad thing. And so I think having those kind of mindsets in college, and just like back to keeping our minds open, are so important to like finding what's truly going to make us happy.
Definitely.
Yeah, graduating undergrad is only the start. That's when you're like, okay, I think I know a bit about myself now. Now I'm ready to jump into that world with the skills that I have and the people that I've met. That's kind of a difficult place to be, but you need to change the way you think about it and just say, like, well, this is a start of a journey. The job will find you, do what you have to do, to get by, obviously, but the job will find you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and I wonder if that's something that's like very true of our generation, because certainly in generations before me, that doesn't really seem to be the case. It's like, okay, got to pick what you're going to do now for the next 40 years. You better stick it through. And I'm glad that, we're not getting that message anymore.
Yeah. I think we're a lot more informed by our desire to make change too, because our generation has seen, just some horrible things destroying our, world. I think a lot of us are passionate change makers, and we want to see a better world for the next generation after us.
For sure.
Definitely.
Thanks, Ryan. Thanks for being here.
Of course. So happy to be here. It's so great to see you. Have me on anytime. All right.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thanks, you guys, too. Have a good night.
Have a good weekend. Bye.
Bye.
The Garden Gate was created by Kira Burba and Caroline McDonald as part of the Learning by Leading initiative with the Smithsonian Gardens. This team includes Emily Warshaw as the education specialist, Yenna Yu as the marketing specialist, Nicolette Kelly as the recording assistant, and Megan Hasty as the audio engineer. The music is by Royalty Free Music on SoundCloud. Special thanks to Cynthia Brown and Paula Healy. Learn more by visiting gardens.si.edu. Thanks for listening.